I am part of the team at Skolkovo charged with establishing what I think is the most exciting and important part of the project. So I guess this makes me one of the crazy people, as Mr. Vinograd said earlier. We are building the Skolkovo Institute of Science and Technology, or what we call SK Tech. Why is this the most exciting? I think it's the most exciting project not only at Skolkovo, but in international education anywhere in the world today. We are building not just a new university, but a new kind of university. One that integrates from the very beginning, integrates into the very DNA of the institution, education, research, and entrepreneurship. So I'd just like to give a brief overview of SK Tech, focus on its mission, structure, and what I think will be interesting and relevant for this audience here, the university's strong emphasis on collaboration with leading international universities and research institutions. In fact, our very model depends on international collaboration, and so the success of our institution will depend on the extent to which we can build effective and mutually beneficial partnerships with universities and research centers around the world, including those here in Israel. In today's environment, the term entrepreneurial university gets thrown around a lot with a great deal of frequency, with an emphasis on technology, spin-off companies, etc. SK Tech will, of course, be entrepreneurial in this sense, but we should never forget that the most fundamental part of a university is the people. And the most important people at a university are the students. Our primary mission is to generate, or to produce coming generations of Russian technology entrepreneurs and technology scientists to go out into the world, build their own companies, spin off. So, again, the most fundamental kind of knowledge transfer, knowledge exchange that will happen at SK Tech will be the annual graduation ceremony, right, when students become our alumni. Beyond this core education mission, right, we of course intend to advance knowledge, foster innovation, and we want to address critical challenges facing Russia and the world, right, that will make a significant impact on big problems across the 5 priority areas of Skolkovo, which I hope you're familiar with: life sciences, information sciences, aerospace, energy science, including nuclear science. Again, the international collaborative part of it is extremely important. As we know, in the current economic landscape, institutions like SK Tech are important as ever for cross-border relations, flows of people, flows of information, knowledge, technologies, products, and capital. Right? In many countries, and especially in Russia, we talk about these things in terms of brain drain or brain gain. But I think at Skolkovo, we prefer to use terms like brain collaboration, brain circulation. Right? This is critically important for creating and sustaining a world-class research university, right? The best of which are not national in focus, but global. And so you may have heard that a week ago in Moscow, the Skolkovo Foundation, SK Tech, and MIT signed a collaborative agreement to develop SK Tech over the next 3 years, covering the education academics, the science and research, and the entrepreneurship and innovation components. But our relationship with MIT is not an exclusive one. Right? We're not only going to work with MIT, and we expect to work with a few dozen other leading international universities and universities in Russia. We are also unique for Russia, a non-profit, non-state graduate-level institution governed by an independent board of trustees. Right. A частный university in Russia often has a bad connotation as a коммерческий, right? So we are going to be, again, не государственный, не коммерческий. We have 5 primary research and education programs, again, across these fields. Each of these will provide MA degrees and PhD degrees. We expect a population of students of 1,200, and this will be kind of a post-disciplinary institution. Right? We want research and education to be problem-driven. Right? We want to identify critical issues and then go after their solutions, and without regard to traditional departmental divisions. We will also cover the cost of education for the MA and PhD students. They will receive generous financial support to cover their education and living expenses. But perhaps one of the most important characteristics of SK Tech will be its culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. Right? A culture perhaps very much like the one that can be found here in Israel, as famously described in the book Startup Nation. In fact, one could argue that the Skolkovo project is just as much of a cultural project as it is a science and technology project. Right? And of course, this culture won't arise magically. It won't just appear once we have these nice, beautiful buildings. It won't come out of this field that we're building. So we need to develop mechanisms that help our students, our faculty, our researchers take their scientific and technology discoveries from the level of idea to the IPO. The CEI will be responsible for integrating entrepreneurial thinking into the curriculum of the education programs, as we will require about 15 to 20% of the coursework to be in innovation management. The CEI will also be home for entrepreneurs in residence. It will host annual competitions with prize money for students and faculty, spin-offs, and startups. The center will obviously house the Office of Tech Transfer, IP management, and so on, and will serve as a primary interface for our interactions with business and industry. Of course, we are building a research university, and getting the research programs up and running is just as important as fostering a culture of innovation. Research at SK Tech will be guided by consideration of use. We want to be in Pasteur's quadrant, if you're familiar with that term. Right? The research may be fundamental, but it will always be guided by potential applications so that we can quickly move research discoveries into the market. And again, we want these to be problem-driven. Identify areas, assemble teams to go after them, and so on. The concept that we're working with for our research centers embodies an increasingly important collaborative and multi-institutional research partnerships that are required for such advanced post-disciplinary research. Right. So we are going to be the lead institution for 15 multi-university research centers. We will hold a competition to bring 2 or more major research university partners into these collaborations, 1 Russian institution, 1 international institution. And in this mode, the faculty, students, postdocs, and other researchers of these centers will primarily conduct their research at their home institution. Right? But they will work collaboratively on the projects and receive funding from SK Tech. Right? So the funding for this will flow out of our institution. Each of these centers will also closely work with the education programs so we can deepen and develop new degree programs, new education tracks. How are we going to roll these out? Again, we don't have a physical campus yet. There's nothing there. So we're the crazy people without anything. But we don't want to lose time. And so we want to start rolling out research programs early next year so that by the time our faculty and students arrive, outfit their labs, launch their projects, there will already be an infrastructure in place. This will allow us to establish a research presence in key areas, to build connections with industry and companies, to attract and create relationships, and to develop and drive the research education innovation model from the very beginning. So in the coming weeks and months, we will be working with our partners at MIT to announce the call for proposals, and we expect to launch 3 research centers in 2012 through a peer-reviewed competition. These centers are expected to be funded at a substantial level in terms of funding research participation of about $4 million per year per institution. This would enable about 6 to 8 primary faculty at each institution. And of course, the funding, of course, will depend on the specifics of this or that program, right? It's going to be more expensive to do programs in biotech than it is for information science, for example. Again, overall, in the Skolkovo scheme, SK Tech is right at the very heart and center. It's going to be the driving force, the engine of the whole ecosystem, and it'll bring together, again, the education, research, and entrepreneurial components. What have we done so far? Well, the institution was recently officially established. We have hired a founding president, an American professor from MIT, Dr. Edward Crawley, who has a great deal of experience in international university management, research administration, founding his own companies, and so on. And of course, we just recently established our deal with MIT. We think that it is possible to build a world-class research university from scratch, a university of a new kind, and more important, we think that we can do this at Skolkovo. But let me conclude with an invitation. Again, Skolkovo is not simply a Russian project, it's an international one. Its success will depend not only on those of us located in Moscow, but on people from around the world that we are able to attract. And so I hope that my colleagues and I, several of my colleagues are also here, have a chance to meet and discuss with you the potential for SK Tech to cooperate with you and your institutions and organizations. Thank you very much.